Your body is not yours. You are born in Persia, where your father can command you to marry your brother and know God will save you. But step inside the palaces and fire temples, and you'll see something darker here. Where is worshipped, yet incest was praised. Here women were paraded in temples, their bodies offered to strangers. Here boys were cut and mutilated, bound forever to guard the king. And you are not watching from afar, are inside this world. A daughter ordered to marry your brother, a captive dragged into a harem under the gaze of cold-eyed eunuchs, a boy forced beneath the knife. So you may never know a woman. This was ancient Persia. West sex was. Politics were pleasure, was power, and what you call sin, they called sacred duty. Before we begin, if you crave the darkest truths history tried to bury, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us keep these stories alive. Is what you're about to discover will make even Rome's orgies look tame. Step closer. The torch is alit. The whispers are waiting. Picture this. You are a young Persian girl, the daughter of a noble house. Your body is not your own. It never was from the moment you were born. Priests whispered of your duty, and your parents nodded in agreement that duty was not to some distant stranger, not to a husband chosen from another family number. Call duty was to your own blood. Your father tells you plainly, you will marry your brother. This is not scandal. It is not whispered in shame. It is celebrated because in the heart of Zoroastrian belief, the religion of the Persian kings, nest was not filth, it was holy. They had a word for it, queda, which means marriage with one's own kin to you. It means climbing into the marriage bed with the same boy who once shared your cradle, spreading your legs for your father. If what's demanded it. And carrying the child of your own blood, fire priests said this act was the greatest of good deeds. Why? Because it strengthened creation. Because it kept the bloodline pure, untainted by outsiders, and for the play family, it guaranteed one thing. Power stayed locked inside the same house. Imagine the wedding. There are no gas, no raised brows. The court gathers garlands of flowers, hang in the halls, musicians play. And when your brother takes, the crowd cheers to them. This is the height of devotion and offering to the gods themselves. But outside Persia, the whispers are venomous. Greek travelers recoil. Herodotus, the father of history, called it. Baruch Strabo and Plutarch wrote of it in disgust to the Greeks. It was proof of Persian corruption, proof that behind their golden palaces lurked a society rotting at its core. Yet for the Persians, this was not corruption. What was perfection? Kings themselves practiced it, the achievement of dynasty. Those mighty rulers who commanded an empire from India to Greece kept incest at the heart of their throne. Cambyses, the second son of Cyrus the Great, just said to have married his sisters, Darius Xerxes. Rumors swirled around the mall for them. Sleeping with their own blood was not taboo, but a royal right. You can picture it, can't you? A king reclining in his chambers, summoning his, not a sibling but his wife. The same blood runs in their veins, and now it mixes in their bed. The priests justify it with scripture. In the Vendidad, one of Zoroastrianism's sacred texts, Kidada is praised. Off all deeds, a man who marries his mother, his sister, or his daughter is said to secure salvation for his soul. They preached that such unions imitated the divine order itself. But the reality, the cold, physical, real, is not holy. It is flesh on flesh. It is a girl with no choice. It is a father lifting his daughter's veil on their wedding night. You can almost hear the silence in that room, the shuffle of silk, the girl's breath. My throat. She has been told this is sacred, but her body rebels. Every nerve screams, this is wrong, and yet there is no escape. Because in Persia, to refuse cuidado was not only to defy your family, it was, if I got. And so the incest ritual lived on for centuries. Priests wrote about it. Kings practiced it. Nobles defended it to them. It was purity to outsiders. It was sickness, but for the entrapped in it, it was a prison with no door. Now imagine you are pregnant, and the child inside you is not only your son or daughter, It is your niece, your nephew, your sibling. By blood a twisted circle, wear titles. In the eyes of Persia, this child is blessed in your eyes. It is the living mark of change you could never break. Herodotus said that when Persians debated policy, they did it twice, once drunk and once sober. Perhaps that is fitting, because the doctrine of incest was exactly that, a drunken logic passed off as divine truth. It promised strength, but it rotted the soul. And yet this was no fringe cult. It was the foundation of royal power. The kings of Persia ruled the largest empire the world had yet seen, and in their most private chambers, they took their sisters and daughters as brides for kings, and nobles marrying. Inside the family was the ultimate guarantee of control bringing in, and where his queen meant risking betrayal, divided loyalties, or claims to the throne through foreign blood. But if your queen was your sister or your daughter, there was no rival family to challenge your power. Think of Cambyses II. Son of Cyrus, the great Greek writers accused him of marrying his sisters. One of them, they say, was named Roxanne. Another was fighting me. Whether the names were true or not didn't matter. The story spread, whispered in disgust by Greeks who saw Persia as a land ruled by incestuous tyrants. But to the Persians themselves, Cambyses was not shameful. He was faithful to tradition, to the gods, to the purity of his bloodline. Imagine. Royal court as a theater of contradiction in public, the Persians condemned adultery with ferocious punishments. A woman caught in the arms of another man might be mutilated or executed for dishonoring her family. In the same breath, priests praised incest as a path to salvation to outsiders. It was hypocrisy to Persians. It was balanced. The holy text spoke in absolutes. Marrying within your family was the greatest. Indeed, refuse it, and you invited demons into your soul. Accept it, and you secured your place in paradise. So when a royal daughter stood before the fire altar, veiled and trembling, she was not only marrying her brother, she was binding her soul to the gods. Every gesture, every touch was framed as ritual. The priest's chants filled the chamber, and when the vows were spoken, the brother's hand tightened around hers, sealing not just marriage, but a doctrine. Her eyes may have been wet with silent tears, but in the fire temple, those tears were called holy. Now step into the chamber on the wedding night. The musicians are gone. The crowds are gone. Only two siblings remain. Trapped in silk sheets, his hands are not gentle. Hers cannot push him away outside the priests. Wait for news of consummation, because without it, the union is incomplete. You feel his breath on your neck, the same breath you grew up beside as children, and as his weight crushes you down, you know there is no escape. To cry out is to curse the gods, to resist is to betray your father's house. This is Quidada. This is salvation. They tell you. And if you can see, the court will rejoice. The midwives will bless the unborn child, calling it doubly pure. The king will smile, knowing his dynasty has been sealed tighter than before. And when that child is born, no one will whisper. What screams in your mind? Abomination. But not everyone obeyed willingly. Stories survive of nobles who resisted, who whispered doubts, who refused to give their daughters or sisters to the priests' demands, and for those who defied the punishment. Was a turtle damnation. It was a rebellion, not just against your family, but against God, and so most submitted. Better to be damned in silence than burned alive in both worlds. The Greeks used this practice as a weapon of propaganda. What's the rate of Persian incest with open disgust, painting the empire is decadent and monstrous? To his readers, it confirmed every suspicion. The Persians were slaves to lust, ruled by tyrants who bedded their own blood. And yet, Zoroastrian texts preserved by priests continue to praise the same unions. Even under the Sicilian dynasty, incest was discussed as the highest virtue. Two worlds staring at the same act. One cleanest, the other so horror. Now imagine you are a woman of Babylon living on the Persian rule. The city is vast, the temples tower over you, and the lore of the gods is carved into every stone you were born. Ring that one day No matter how rich or poor your family is, you must submit to the same ritual. It is called sacred prostitution. Herodotus. The Greek historian described it in brutal detail. He claimed that every woman in Babylon, in her lifetime, was forced to walk into the great temple of Ishtar, known to the Persians as my litter, and give her body to a stranger, not for love, not for money of her choosing, but because the gods demanded it. Imagine the scene you enter. Simple grounds with hundreds of other women. Some are dressed in fine robes dripping with jewels. Others are poor, wearing rags, clutching at their shawls. But it makes no difference here in the shadow of the goddess all women. Call must be touched by a stranger. You sit among them waiting. The temple courtyard is crowded with men, foreigners, merchants, soldiers. They circle like wolves watching. Waiting one by one, women are chosen. A man steps forward, throws a coin into her lap. Any coin, no matter how small, you must follow him, whether he is rich or filthy, whether he is young or wrinkled with age. There is no refusal now. What is your turn? A shadow falls across you. A man, sweat on his brow, dust clinging to his cloak, throws a coin into your lap. The metal is cold against your skin. He mutters the goddess's name, sealing the ritual. Your stomach twists. What is shakes? But the priests are watching, and their law is clear. You must rise and follow through a side passage. You are led into a dark chamber. There is no ceremony here, no sanctity, just stone walls and the stench of. The man does not speak your name. He does not care who you are to him. You are nothing but an offering. He touches you roughly, without tenderness, without shame. And as his body presses against yours, you close your eyes and remind yourself of the only comfort this ritual allows. It will end when it is over. You return to the courtyard. Empty, aching, the coin he tossed, you is yours to keep, but it is worthless. The true price has already been paid. With your body, with your dignity, and the priests smile, declaring you purified. To Herodotus, this ritual was unthinkable. He wrote that no custom was more shameful to the Greeks. Babylon was a city, launched and lost in corruption. Some waited years for the ritual, refusing to be chosen, sitting in the temple day after day until a man finally picked them. Others were taken quickly. Their all deal over in hours. The rich wrap them. Samsung golden veils, hoping to attract a nobleman. The poor sat in silence, knowing they might be chosen by beggars. Think of the humiliation. A young girl trembling as an old man grips her wrist. A mother forced to leave her children. Find, knowing she must return. Tainted in their eyes, a virgin told her. Purity means nothing until it is stripped from her in the temple. And yet this was called holy. Herodotus believed it was universal. Every woman, he said, must endure it. Some modern historians doubt him, wondering if the Greeks exaggerated to paint the Persians and Babylonians as immoral. But whether it happened exactly as he described or not, the image stuck. Picture yourself. Play temple. The sun is high, the streets are loud, but you feel nothing. You walk with your head low, the coin clutched in your hand as though it could erase what has just been taken. If temples demanded women surrender themselves to strangers once, Alice demanded it for a lifetime. Behind its golden walls lay the harem, Persia's most infamous prison. Of silks and shadows, you are dragged through the bronze gates of Persepolis, wrists still raw from the shackles of captivity. When soldiers don't look at you as a woman, they look at you as property. You were taken in the aftermath of conquest, one of dozens of Greek girls forced from your city after it burned, and tonight you are being delivered to the royal harem. The harem sounds soft, almost exotic in distant lands, but step inside its walls and you realize it is a cage gilded with terror. The room smell of incense and perfume, but beneath it lingers sweat, fear, and Dale tears. Hundreds of women, concubines, wives, slaves, live stacked like treasures in a vault. The guards shove you deeper past women whispering in a dozen different tongues: Persian, Median, Babylonian, Greek. Concord women transformed into ornaments. Each has been stripped of their lineage, their homeland, their dignity. You see jeweled silks on their bodies, but you also see bruises blooming beneath the fabric. And then you see the eunuchs. Play all the watches of this world, men who were mutilated so they could be trusted to guard women without desire, that blank eyes follow you. Their presence makes your stomach twist. They're both victims and wardens at night. Let's begin. Women wait, trembling to be summoned to the king's chambers and knock on your door, could mean a future of privilege or an early grave. Those chosen are paraded like offerings, based painted, dressed stripped of. Play identity, but their body. Some returns smiling, clutching jewels, others return broken, never speaking again. And yet this is not just about sex. The harem is a battlefield of its own. Every concubine schemes. Wife poisons her rivals with honey. Whispers, you hear stories whispered in the dark. Women who strangled newborns, fearing rival sons might threaten their own children's past to the throne. Others who slit poison into cups at banquets. I was hiding the death they delivered. You realize quickly, survival here is not about beauty. It is about cunning, cruelty, and obedience. Fail at one and you vanish. You learn the fate of those who displease. Some women are quietly. Others are publicly disgraced, stripped naked before the court, beaten, humiliated. The harem walls are not velvet, they are iron, and through it all, you wonder about the king to outsiders. He is the most powerful man alive, a god among mortals. But here he is a shadow. He enters, takes what he wants, and disappears. He does not see you. He does not know your name. You think back to your home in Greece, when men boasted of Persian decadence. But hey, you see the truth. This is not pleasure, this is power. The king does not sleep with women for desire alone. He sleeps with them to remind them and the world that they belong to him. One night your door creaks open, a eunuch. Does his face is blank, unreadable. He tells you in a voice that betrays no feeling that you have been chosen. Your heart stops. You are let down. A corridor lit by oil lamps, each step echoing in your skull like a drum beat, pushes you into a chamber heavy with incense. The bed is vast, draped in gold and crimson. You feel the weight of invisible eyes on you, though only the king is present as the door closes behind you. You realize the harem is not simply a prison. It is a game of survival, where every breath, every glance, every word could mean elevation or annihilation. But if the harem was a gilded cage of women, there was another, far more brutal world, reserved for boys, where their very bodies, mutilated to serve the empire. But women were not the only ones trapped in the palace. Boys too were taken, mutilated, and transformed into creatures of silence and control. You are only 12 when the soldiers come for you, a trib. Play, that's what they call it. Your village was forced to hand over its finest boys to the empire. You were chosen, not because you were weak, but because you were strong, healthy, handsome, perfect to serve the court you don't yet understand. Service means they march you and the other boys in silence across the desert toward the shining heart of Persia. At first you feel pride. Perhaps you will stand close to the great king himself, but then whispers reach you. What's traded in the dark, cut, mutilated, unmanned. You don't want to believe them until the night they make it real. The chamber is cold, the stone floor slick with the blood of others who came before you. They force you down, your voice breaking with terror. Then the knife flashes. White fire rips through your body, a pain so deep you choke on it. You pass out to the sound of other boys screaming. And when you wake, something is missing, something you cannot name because it has been taken forever. You are no longer a boy, but you are not a man. You are a eunuch. The wound festers for weeks. Some of your companions die of infection, their bodies dragged out like trash. You, wife, but you do not feel lucky. You feel hollow, like they carved not just your body, but your future. Soon you learn your new role. Eunuchs are the lifeblood of the palace. The women of the harem are now under your watch, the king. Because you are no longer a threat, but that word twists in your mind. Threat, no, you are still dangerous. Just in a different way. You discover quickly that the harem is a nest of venom women whisper poison in. begging for favors, bribing you with gold, even pressing their bodies against you, as if mocking what you've lost. You cannot take what they offer, but you can control who lives and who dies. And so you begin to wield your mutilation as your loyalty is demanded, but your power grows. Eunuchs become confidants, spies, kingmakers with no family to tie them down, no heirs to pass power to. They are the perfect servants of empire. That, what they tell you. But you know the truth. You are also perfect prisoners. Years past the pain dolls, but never fades. You no longer wait for what was taken. Instead, you learn to sharpen your mind, to twist words into daggers. Price through the ranks, you are not a child anymore. You are a shadow at the king's side, privy to secrets that could topple dynasties. One evening you are summoned to the royal chamber. The king looks at you not with contempt, but play trust. He leans close, whispers orders in your ear. Orders that will decide the fate of princes, generals, entire kingdoms. You bow, feeling the weight of power in your hands. Once you were a boy, screaming on a stone floor. Now you hold the empire's secrets, but you also know one truth that no Persian king dares to admit. The eunuchs are the empire's greatest danger. They move unseen, unchallenged, untouchable, and they never forget that made them what they are. But the empire's lust and cruelty didn't end in the palace chambers beyond the gilded walls. Sex itself became a weapon of spectacle, where banquets blurred into orgies and punishment turned the body into. Heavy with wine, your senses blurred by incense that curls through the air like a serpent. The whole glitters, bronze goblets, jeweled plates, roasted meat stripping fat onto silver trays. The king sits at the center surrounded by boots and generals, and the drinking never stops. But the true intoxication here isn't wine. It's flesh. Musicians strike their luts as boys with painted faces dance before the court, their robes sure enough to reveal the outlines of their bodies. They are slaves taken young, trained to move with grace, that innocence sold for entertainment. Their eyes are blank, their smiles carved on like masks. You watch as nobles beckon them, closer hands straying over there. As if the feast is just a prelude to something darker. And then the women come, concubines dressed in silk so thin they may as well be naked. They twirl, laugh, and lo, their beauty arranged like offerings on a platter, are chosen to serve wine, bending at the waist so that noblemen may grab more than the goblet. The king watches amused as the boundary between banquet and orgy dissolves. You can feel the heat rising in the chamber. Lust, power, indulgence. By midnight, the couches are no longer just for reclining. They are beds, stages, altars of flesh. What began as a feast has become a theater of bodies, where the greatest empire on earth displays its power not just in conquest, but consumption. But the same hold indulges in excess also delivers cruelty. The music stops. The air shifts, guards dragging a woman found at the wrists, hair matted with dirt. She is accused of adultery. Her open, a man of rank stands among the courtiers, his face cold as stone. The king demands punishment. The woman is stripped naked before the crowd. Her body trembles under hundreds of hungry eyes. Laughter erupts. Pierce the silence. She's forced to kneel as soldiers whip her back until the skin splits and blood stains the marble floor. Each lash is not just pain, it is humiliation. She begs not for mercy, but for death. The king does not grant it. Instead, she's paraded through the hall, naked and broken, a warning to every woman watching adultery. Here is not just a crime, it is a spectacle, and her suffering is entertainment. You realize, sitting on your cushion couch, that in Persia, sex is never private. It is ritual. It is punishment. It is power, wielded in the open before the eyes of the empire. The same act that can raise a concubine to wealth can destroy. Whether in public, shame by dawn. The banquet is over. The hall reeks of wine sweat, blood and tears. The king retires, leaving his nobles sprawled in exhaustion, their mouths stained red with both pomegranate and you cannot forget what you saw. The laughter at the boy dances, the cries of the punished woman. the mingling of pleasure and cruelty until you cannot tell them apart. For here in the heart of Persia, the body, it is not your own. It belongs to the empire, to use, to break, to discard. And when the wine dried, the wounds healed, and the whispers faded, Persia's empire stood as both a beacon of purity and a pit of ind. The torches burn low as the palace falls silent. You walk alone through corridors that reeked of incense and secrets, your footsteps echoing against walls that have witnessed every indulgence, every cruelty behind those walls. Play memories that cannot be erased. A princess forced into her brother's arms in the name of purity. A woman left trembling in a temple, her body bartered a sacred tribute. A Greek girl trapped in a golden cage, her freedom. Her silken terror, a boy carved into obedience, his screams echoing in a chamber that stank of blood. A banquet where wine spilled like rivers and flesh, male and female, was consumed as if it were meat. This was Pers, the empire that dazzled the world with its splendor, that preached order, justice, and sacred fire. Yet beneath its marble floors run a darker current. Here power was not just measured in armies or gold, it was measured in bodies. And how they were used, displayed, broken, or discarded. And the contradiction is what makes it unforgettable. The same Zoroastrian priests who spoke of purity, truth, and cosmic order also sanctified. List in the name of the gods, the same rulers who built the world's most beautiful palaces, filled them with women who lived as prisoners in luxury. The same kings who demanded loyalty and devotion, mutilated boys to ensure obedience. Empire tells the story. It once remembered. Persia wanted to be remembered as righteous, chosen by the gods, guardians of the sacred fire. And yet when you peel away the gold leaf, you see the root underneath. You see an empire built as much, lost fear and humiliation as it was on glory and conquest. Close your eyes, and you can still hear it. The clink of a goblet, the whisper of silk slipping off a shoulder, the crack of a whip against flesh, the muffled. If someone who knows they will never be free, these sounds are not written in stone or carved into reliefs, but they are just as real. They linger in the silence history refuses to speak of. And perhaps that is the most chilling truth of all. Empires do not die when their armies are defeated or their palaces crumble. They die when their sins are remembered, when the darkness they tried to hide becomes the only story that survives. So when you think of Persia, do not only picture its gardens, its temples, its kings crowned in gold. Picture the women and boys who paid the price for that splendor, for they were the true foundation of the empire. Its silenced sacrifices, its forgotten. This is, and maybe those voices are still whispering in the ruins today. Tell me in the comments which practice you find most disturbing. And if you want to support our hard work, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.